Give them a shot.
So how would you feel if you woke up one morning to find that the people whose job it is to dispose of it had decided on a massive new national dumping ground, and it was your village? That's what's happened this year here at the village of Elstow in Bedfordshire.
I mean, obviously one of the things that this project is all about, Dump It on Parliament, it arises from a specific incident in the mid-1980s where there was a government plan to dump nuclear waste in a location very, very close to where people lived, and obviously there was a howl of protest against that. And what was helpful at the time is there was this kind of counterculture that was ready to be activated in order to kind of articulate those protests.
In 1986 I got involved with this Bedfordshire Against Nuclear Dumping project, which involved mixing tracks for a number of bands and artists to put out on a compilation CD that was a protest from all the area's local alternative bands against the opening of a nuclear low-level waste dump at Elstow.
There are obviously still today a lot of very, very angry people in the world, and yes, we are so pissed off with our governments, and for very good reason. And what we have to do today is find a good way to produce new protest and to engage people, not just in viewing our protest, but in then going out and protesting themselves.
We're getting some of today's bands to cover some of the original tracks from the original Dump It on Parliament and do their own versions of them, as well as maybe the bands present their own track that they wish to dump on Parliament for things and issues that mean a lot to them today.
Very much the tensions nowadays are, I'd say quite similar. We have problems now with, Syria, terrorism on our doorstep, fundamentalism, and lots of people being disaffected and not knowing, what the point of it is. We have a lot of young people completely removed from the political system, or have removed themselves from the political system because they're just not interested.
It's very dangerous times, obviously, and so it needs people to realise the fact and get the message as well. So, bands coming up and doing, rough, not the same as what we did, but, saying it as it is, that needs to happen for people to realise that, this shit's really, it's real,
It feels really unnatural to be in a library with this much noise.
It was one of the, we thought it sounded most similar to our sort of sound, really.
Yeah. Most in line with what we do.
Yeah. I mean, we couldn't understand the lyrics, so we've had to do a little region.
We did ask for the lyrics, but no one.
Yeah. So it's kind of like a progression, really, which is sort of nice in itself. I mean, we found out today that the Kaz from Penumbra Psi has passed away, and in a kind of really nice way, it's like we're carrying on her energy through the music. So
trying to,
yeah. Hopefully, we've done her proud.
The monument, according to the wording on the side of the monument itself, it was built late in 1986. According to the wording, I think it was October 1986. By that time, word had come out that the government had backed off. Officially, they said that they'd done the surveying and that the groundwater was too high. That was their get out clause. Okay, we can't use this. It's geographically and physically not going to be good enough. They'd seen the level of protest, they'd seen Chernobyl, but word had got out that it wasn't going to happen, so they built the monument with some of the money. And it was like a victory peace monument to children, dedicated to the children of Bedfordshire, and on the side of it you can see that it's got words pilgrims protest, and really that was like a play on the popular character from Bedford called John Bunyan, who wrote Pilgrim's Progress, the famous book from 1600s. So Pilgrim's Protest became like a little name that clicked in with the historical context of the area.
Yeah, we picked the Rattlesnake song, No Money. Recently the drummer, I believe the drummer died, so it's quite poignant really that we're actually covering it. I know Spawn, UK Decay, I know he likes, he really appreciates the fact that we're... Yeah, he was good friends with. Yeah, he was good friends with, I know he really appreciates we're covering that. It's also quite relevant to us really. We've never really sort of had money really, so... It's true. So yeah, that's one of the reasons why we picked that. A song called Our Country, and it's sort of basically based on the government at the moment and sort of their policies and things like that, and whether or not they go through with them, potentially what happens to the country if they don't, that sort of thing. So yeah, we just wanted to write something that was relevant to these times and the issues that we all have to sort of face, I suppose, on a daily basis.
Word came into 33 Guildford Street, which was a local arts centre venue that we all hung about with at the time. The thing about 33 was there were rehearsal rooms there was a video editing suite, there was a live performance area, there was a green room, and there was just space and a tolerant atmosphere and a vegetarian cafe as well. So it was somewhere where people could hang out and meet other people.
I'd go down there with Spawn and help set up the gigs and stuff like that. And then if ever I went anywhere, I would tell people what was going on there. And then if we ever did any gigs anywhere, like I worked with other groups and stuff like that, so I'd always make people aware what was going on there. And it was a very good. We had a really brilliant network then. Everybody. It was all word of mouth. Everybody knew somebody who played there or a group that had played there. And it was absolutely incredible. And back in the day, it was a telephone number on a beer mat, and Spawn would come along, get in touch with so-and-so for us, and it was incredible. Yeah. So if we ever went somewhere, we'd always meet somebody. Yeah. And the Bauhaus connection with UK Decay, well, as they say, the rest is history.
33 was a very, very vibrant arts centre. That believed in a crossover of disciplines. So regardless of what kind of artist or performer you were, you could come into there, you could talk to people, and you could cross-fertilise. And that's what we did with sort of like when we made Werewolf for UK Decay, that came out of that process. We did lots of work with people like the People Show, who would come down, perform there. Again, crossover work.
It was also the venue for a lot of the original punk gigs that we played. It was a small, tight venue, maybe holding 50 or 60 people. So it was a place we all hung out. And one day somebody came in and said, look, Bedfordshire against nuclear dumping, we're looking for ways of mounting a protest. And because we were musicians, and there were 2 or 3 bands in there, the idea was mooted that we'd do a compilation tape initially, so that the funds from profits from selling it would help support the people that might get arrested by surrounding the Elstow site.
When Laura writes lyrics to songs, she tends to just write one lyric.
Yeah, I'll just write one sentence. Yeah, that'll do.
She's basically very, very lazy.
Yeah, so the words to job centre are, I don't want to go to the job centre today.
It's a hard one to learn.
That's it.
With credit cards, that's what your parents are buying, things they do not need, candles and jasmine tea, and invest in property, cause we told them to, and our rent money pays for a fantastic cruise.
When we started the band, we felt like everything that young people were making, it was just weak as piss. Like, it just felt like there's this recession happening, and when that happened before, young people were making music that was angry because there was a lot to be angry about. And now there's still a lot to be angry about, but then you have bands like Bolbeck Bicycle Club making utter shite music, like wet fart music for mobile phone adverts, and it's just like, there's no guts.
She's chewing them, she's biting.
We were the second wave of punk, as it were. And what came with that was a sense of do-it-yourself and the fact that everybody could get up and do something. Whether it was actually playing in a band, writing poetry, putting gigs on, writing a fanzine, or any one of those things. Just about everybody in the scene took a role. You know, and some people more than one role, and everything was to play for.
DIY culture in Luton was absolutely excellent, and there was a place there they called, I think it was something like the Crypt, and that was an old building, an old disused building, and everybody met round there who was sort of like helping out with the scene. So you'd get the lads from the Chronic Outbursts going there, and we also had a few of the UK Decay followers there, and some people would come along who followed the Sex Gang children, and everybody would come there and help out. If somebody got a gig, somebody could get hold of a transit van and stuff like that, and it was just an incredibly great scene at the time.
Yeah, I was really impressed by how up for it everyone was, and they did really join in, and there was a really nice atmosphere in the room, you know, and I think everybody was really thinking about the sentiment and the meaning, and, you know, someday the walls will crumble and the leaders will fall and stand together, and I think all of that really meant something to everybody singing, you know, which was nice.
We picked Believe in Me by Party Girls. It's fantastic. The guitar work is just brilliant, and it's really 80s goth sort of. You're obviously quite Bauhaus influence. It's a really cool song, and yeah, I think managing to decipher a few of the lyrics, it might be to do with a lot of the controversy around communication and sort of what is the truth. You know, you never quite know what to believe.
Believe in me. Believe in me. I can't believe a single word you say. Your message comes through, but not effectively.
Yeah, we couldn't decipher all the lyrics, but that's kind of what we got from it, so hopefully we've kind of got the right message.
Let's now do it manually.
Our first production, which came together, was called Death Valley Days, which was initially 4 pieces, latterly 5, which was formed around the summit, the G7 Economic Summit in London in '84, and we came together and we just started what became to be known as Scratch Video, which ultimately was taking material that off air, that was lying around, anything we could, you know, lay our hands on, and remaking it into what we wanted to say. We take stuff that would annoy us and turn it around. We would take stuff that we completely disagreed with and turn it on its head.
Through Guerrilla, we were kind of 4 people who were pissed off. We were pissed off with the government, we didn't like Margaret Thatcher, and we wanted to tell people because we realised there were an awful lot of other people that were pissed off as well. So we started making scratch videos. I mean, Margaret Thatcher's voice still shivers up my spine every time I hear it.
So he goes out and does his own thing. Marvellous. Marvellous.
Because I spent so long going through footage of her to produce the stuff we did. We expanded it slightly into music, but always stayed with a political core.
Called 1111.
Well, Run is
their track.
Yeah, it's kind of about, again, it's like that age of enlightenment in a weird way, with media, the internet, the rise of, Wikipedia, even something like that, a worldwide library. We've uncovered, not us, but people have uncovered so many things that are going on that years ago people used to say, oh, that's a conspiracy. And now it's not. Like, we get to see sort of in plain daylight, really, now, that some of the untoward things, like, the government, the decisions they make for us anyway. And Run is sort of about them getting caught out, like, we know what you're up to and we're coming for you.
And each town as well had its own little fanzine. So, like, we in Luton, we had a fanzine called the Sus, which we used to put out when we had a gig on, and we'd take the front pages of the Sun newspaper for the day, and then put the Nazi SS on where the N was, so it'd be the Sus. And whatever day we printed it, we would put on, we'd leave the date on it, so it would have the date by default on the actual front page of the Sus.
That was a brilliant magazine. I've got the one where they got Lord Mountbatten on the front, and he's got, "You've hit the wrong boat, you blithering idiot," with his binoculars. They were a little bit controversial at times, but that's what got them noticed. Yeah.
I was a huge fan of the whole kind of punk, post-punk music scene. And one of the key components of that was fanzines. Fanzines were a kind of fantastic and kind of immediate and rough and ready way of communicating, information about local bands, catching interviews with people who happened to be around in town. They were this kind of excellent kind of local resource. The very first fanzine as such was Sniffing Glue, founded by Mark Perry, which is where in fact Danny Baker got his first job. I think there was something about the kind of vitality, the roughness, and they really were particularly kind of pretty rough at the time. Energy of those fanzines really kind of helped influence the mainstream music press, because a lot of the writers from those fanzines went on to write for magazines like No Jamaica and Enemy. I was fascinated in the idea of talking to kids from the 21st century, at some 30 years on, about fanzines, because of course other technologies exist that seem to preclude the need for them. People would probably just have blogs or whatever, they would tweet, they would disseminate ideas that way, but it's not really quite the same. I thought it would be fascinating to go along, talk to a group and introduce them to things like typewriters, the electric typewriter. Also, the chance for them to kind of do things like cut up collage, use old bits of newspaper or whatever, create their own kind of headlines, and have something that's kind of in a sort of very long-standing tradition that goes right back to the kind of Dada movement, using the stuff of newspapers, the sort of daft sort of tabloid hysteria and sort of media nonsense that's thrown at us every day, and fling something back at them by simply kind of cutting up copies of tabloids or whatever, or cutting out pictures of David Cameron and sort of inserting slogans emerging from his mouth. And really to sort of get a sense of how doing things like this is a means of communicating their anger, their frustration, their disaffection with the way they're being treated. All
the funding's getting cut to the performing art. A friend of mine has to now retake year 12 because she did year 12 and then she was going to leave because she didn't like sixth form and she was going to do a college course instead. But all the funding to that and the surrounding area has been cut to performing arts.
Yeah.
So all the drama classes are gone, all music courses are gone.
Our band, we are buffoons. The buffoons with bassoon.
The only punk rock band with an oboe.
It's a bassoon. Has the education system taught you nothing?
I'm working here.
This is why it's flawed.
The drama group is a
active group is about 5 young people, ranging, I would guess, from about 9 to about 21. Who are an active drama group, I think, doing lots of different stuff, which meant when I worked with them, they were already a very sparky young group, full of ideas. So we did a couple of exercises, kind of songwriting, idea generation exercises. They'd already done one around taking cut-ups from newspapers, a technique that David Bowie used to use, and before him, Brian Geisen. But we then also did a kind of questioning method, really, where they were asking each other questions about the topic of what they wanted to dump on Parliament, really. So the ideas that came out of that group, most of their concerns around education and frankly the return to the 80s values of education, which is what they brought up in their song, really. So there were a lot of pressures, exams, not enough recognition of their more creative learning and their more ongoing learning.
Government ministers cuts to the arts. What priorities? We're back to the start.
Back to the 80s. We're back to the 80s. Back to the 80s. Back to the 80s. Drama slash acting slash music slash dance. All those things and we won't stand a chance.
Uppity can spell that bullshit pungently. To us, Macman was somebody. To them, he's just an obstacle. Watching us big brotherly through one giant monocle. Deciding what's tolerable, whilst our own laws are optional. Convince ourselves they're honourable, what's really irresponsible. Obstacles paradoxical, ironically.
Yeah, so the track I called it The Resistance, and it was basically just about some of it touches on skims the surface on problems that are going on in the country, but the different verses kind of break up into different things. Being born into like a system, basically, then some of the policing that goes on, the economy, banking, poverty, and then just the media controlling everything and being kind of watched, and that it just kind of touches along some of them certain things. I'm not saying like I know everything in the world, but like it's just trying to bring some of them sort of issues to the forefront and put it into something that is maybe a bit more of a spoken word-ish type track. It's very heavily on the words and that.
So the problem persists. A bag full of broken bones, deep like archaeologists. Can't see a way out, but a touch cloud in the mist.
I voted to go to war. I said I think we should make some big changes.
And they say the kids are overweight and put the blame on us when they promote Big Macs.
But the sampling thing, I've kind of taken pieces of like news clippings and interviews. The track was some of the themes in it were influenced by 1984. And I thought some of the stuff he said is quite like relevant for today's society.
What I do, I listen to what's going on economically and what the governments are doing and stuff like that, and then I'll get everything, all the different dilemmas and one thing and solutions and everything else, and then I'll write everything down, I'll jumble it all up, there'll be about 3 or 4 different pages of words, and then I shall sit down and I'll rejig all that lot, and then I will come out with a poem. And that's how I've been doing it, I think, since I've been about 11 years old. Yeah. So there we go.
Why, yes, Mr. Reagan, 3 bags full, Mr. Reagan, and all bosh, that other tosh. You better take a look. Maggie's the boss.
It was like Margaret Thatcher almost having a private phone call with Ronald Reagan, and just saying, "Oh, what can we do, and how can I help you," and stuff like that. And it's such a click, isn't it? They have all these secret phone calls and stuff like that, and that concerns you and I, but they will go above the people that have put them there just for almost their own for their own use, and they won't keep the public informed. That's the bit that really gets me. We're all led like lemmings at times.
Her memoirs I'd like to read, how she led a nation to bleed. But man is a fickle creature indeed. Thank you and good night.
There was a big thing with the punk generation in the 80s and stuff. Then culture's changed a little bit, and you've had hip-hoppers kind of taken it on board. You've had Public Enemy, people like Loki, but then homegrown. I've actually been brought up in Luton, the same place where like For Life Cypher has done a lot of politically motivated tracks as well, and they've been a big influence on me. yeah, I think music with a message is, like, people do listen to it, and you know, I do get angry about issues, and people people that are on the same sort of playing field as you, on the same wavelength, can relate to it, and I'm just trying to do something that is only scratching the surface of a few issues, but there's people in my community that will be able to understand certain things that I'm saying.
I think the last one I bought was from the West Cornwall Pasty Company. I seem to remember I was in Leeds Station at the time. I've got a feeling I opted for the large one, and very good it was too.
Yeah, it was War Games when we chose. It's by, please say who it's by.
Bugsy named J. Graham is the name. War Games. We just listened to all the tracks on the compilation, and we thought it had quite a powerful message, but also in terms of what we like to play, it matched up with us a little bit in terms of the singer-songwriter aspect to it.
We chose that song before recent terrorism and things that have been flagged up. It's making me think a lot more about war and all the terror of that. When I'm singing it now, it feels a lot more pertinent than maybe we'd realise when we actually picked it.
In the fields that day, I heard one child ask its mother.
I work in the education system, and I've also been just recently on a psychology degree. I kind of talked about the way that people are treated in the mental health system and within schools, and I feel like it's all very regimented and restricted in schools, and not a lot of free reign for creativity for children or teachers. And in terms of like mental health, I think people are treated as if there's something wrong with them too much. It's not considered why they might be like that in terms of the social influences that might have brought them to where they are. And I think that we all too often silence people up with pills and just do the easier thing rather than looking at, you know, where society might be at fault.
I can't breathe out of anyone's system. I can't breathe, I can't breathe.
So I think also the other workshops that we did with the Team Cray group, and they're a group of adults, mostly adults, but actually also young adults as well, kind of 16, 17-year-olds with learning disabilities and mental health problems. But that's definitely a group of people that need to have their voice heard, and this is so relevant to them because they're often an overlooked group and a sidelined group. So I really enjoyed kind of presenting this project to them.
I was really proud of seeing our artwork up there, and it was incredible to see how it had all grown quite organically from exercises that we did early on. So one of the first things we did was make these collages from cutting out headlines from papers about what we thought was relevant today, and then seeing them progress onto further banners that were used during the event.
So working with the Team Create sessions, we were in a very small enclosed space in the library, and we had a small selection, a small DIY box of bits of scissors and scalpels and Pritt sticks so that the team could have a look at the artwork that I produce, and look at the artwork from the UK Decay archives, and have a little bit of time to sort of take that all in, and then we'd work in front of them, ripping things up, making imagery very quickly and in the moment, and not worrying too much about the general layout, playing with things without sticking them down, so you can make multiple versions of what you're going to do and then choose which one you want to take forward to the print process. So we taught them, the first few sessions were very creative and hands-on, and then I'd take that work away, put it all together and make a print out of it. So then the next session we could come in and teach the guys how to use screen printing equipment, all the different basics that they need to learn, and the equipment, what things are called, and then we got to print a run of posters with the guys, and then we'd come back and then we'd look at other issues, things that are bothering them in the world, and finding ways to incorporate that into the work that they were doing. And everyone eventually by the end produced some really great exciting work. It was a really good creative team in the end, and everyone was really taking it on board and getting involved and knew the process in and out.
The social media that you have today worries me in the sense that there is a great tendency to vent anger. I mean, obviously many groups do use it as an organisational tool to advertise demonstrations, but what I don't think they're doing is engaging people's imagination in how to protest.
I think it was there's like a really good riff through it with like a bending note and like a really long guitar intro, and it kind of reminded me a bit of like early Sonic Youth stuff, and I thought we could do something with it. And to be honest, I sort of had nothing, I didn't know where it was going to go, and I don't think we could have faithfully like covered it, so it only came together about 2 a.m. In my bedroom when I was like on Tuesday. And then we practiced it on Wednesday night, and we played a gig last night and played it there. And I had this lyric of like sign an e-petition for world peace, because there's an e-petition for world peace on the Number 10 website where you can do all your petitions and stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's got an amazing amount of signatures, but obviously it's not. I don't know, that's the kind of apathy of just like, they call it clicktivism. Yeah. And I thought it'd be funny to write a song from like the last person to ever sign that e-petition, and he's the one that seals the deal, he or she's the one that seals the deal for world peace. So that's what I did with the lyrics. But in terms of the song, yeah, I googled that band as well, Penumbra Psi, and I couldn't find too much, but there was like a forum. I think like it might have been a bunch of Fall fans talking about them and saying how great they were. I think they were Luton based. I hope they hear the song, and I hope they're kind of happy with what we did with it, because we sort of tried to make it our own.
So the protest song that we've written that we're performing at the Leighton Buzzard gig is kind of based around our current sort of foreign policy, and
it stinks.
Yeah, just about how the whole thing's a shambles.
In a way, that kind of spirit that led to the original concerts to do with the NIREX and the anti-nuclear thing is kind of encapsulated in both the songs. So they're not kind of directly political, but they are influenced by social and political situations and decisions that are made. So.
You was saying.